practicing. They'd come over, listen to rehearsals and things. And so we're in there playing, and all of a sudden a fight breaks out with a bunch of bachelorette girls. I don't know, must have been 10 or 11 of them was fighting with some other girls. I don't know, but it ended up on stage and knocked my mic stand over and just one of the cymbals on the drums. And I remember when he was picking the cymbals back up, kept playing. I pulled my mic stand back up, never missed a beat.
The intersection of good drinks, good music, and good times. This is Hops and Spirits Bar Conversations.
Another month has flown by, and we've got another great episode for you this week. And don't you worry, because we're going to take a little break in February, but we'll be back around the middle of the month with brand new episodes and a whole lot more fun coming up. And like I said, we got a great episode for you this week. Our conversation is with Colton James, as his new EP America just recently dropped. But before all that, it's tasting notes. And with this dropping here at the end of dry January for many, we thought you might enjoy our chat with Becca Gardner, the founder of the non-alcoholic spirits brand Naked Lady. She spoke with us recently on the Hops and Spirits Kentucky podcast. She's got a lot to talk about and a cool thing to look at. Like I said, as we're in the midst of dry January, wrapping it up for most. So let's not waste any more time and get into the show. Enjoy.
Did you know Hops and Spirits is more than just this podcast? Check out hopspirits.com for our latest episode release, past episodes, interviews with interesting folks in the alcohol industry, and so much more. Just go to hopspirits.com. Feel free to wait until this podcast is done.
Joining us here for our Q&A this week, she's the founder of Naked Lady, and she'll explain exactly what that means here in just a second. Please welcome in Becca Gardner.
Hello.
You mentioned that you were in the hospitality industry and you came back to Kentucky to launch what is now Naked Lady. What led to the creation of that? And for those that don't know, it's spelled or stylized NKD LDY.
Yes. So Naked Lady without the vowels. So I gave up drinking while I was still working in consulting, and my job really was living in hotels, flying several times a week, taking clients out to dinners. And while the decision for me to stop drinking ended up just being a great decision for myself, I thought it was going to be something temporary, but it ended up just deciding to stay with it. And, it was good for so many reasons. The disadvantage was that I quickly felt so alienated from so many of the experience that I had once lived. I've always been a pretty social person. So whether that's going to bars or restaurants or just, doing random things, there's always drinking involved. And so, this went on for about a year, but then I got to the point I was so frustrated that I knew there had to be a better way. And I actually decided I wanted to leave consulting, and I was interviewing for this job in London. And, it was my dream job for a lot of reasons, but I was actually more struck by the non-alc space in the UK 3 years ago. And so, I spent almost all of my time in London, and I probably spent a month there total, going to every bar and restaurant I could to see what non-alc options they had. And I just left with this idea that, something like this could also work in the US. And I ended up kind of, putting the points together where I was like, wait, I grew up along the Bourbon Trail. I'm from Kentucky. I'm a lover of spirits. And, maybe this is something where I'm well suited to try, to do something about it. And so it was a couple months before the pandemic, which ended up being great timing, frankly. I left New York, moved back in with my parents in Shelbyville, Kentucky, to start kind of figuring out what it could look like to create a quote unquote authentic non-alcoholic spirits company. So,
and you picked a whiskey. You got a whiskey, a gin, and a tequila. Why go with those three? Obviously, I know you kind of mentioned being in Kentucky, from Kentucky, the whiskey probably had to be a must. But why the other two?
Yeah, so you're exactly right. And honestly, when I set out to do this, it was first and foremost going to be a whiskey. I didn't imagine that out of the gate I would be developing three products. It was actually through a lot of conversations I had with bartenders and prospective customers where I realized that, even though I'm a Kentucky girl, and when I think of spirits, I immediately think of whiskey and bourbon. That's not where, a lot of people, would go as their first choice. And so I think with our mission really being to make the drinking experience accessible to everyone, we wanted to provide folks with some of those kind of core building blocks of a lot of the most common, cocktails they know and love. And so I think, we started with the gin, the tequila, and the whiskey. And I think, we'd eventually love to have like a rum, and kind of continue to build out those product lines. But these cover our at least kind of basic basis for now.
Well, like you said, most cocktails are probably built off of those three, and if that's kind of where most would go with, and bartenders know a thing or two about the drink world and their customers. Yeah,
absolutely.
I was curious because you mentioned a lot of times, you guys make real booze minus the alcohol, and there's a bunch of different ways folks have kind of come at this in terms of creating these non-alcoholic spirits. How does your process work maybe compared to others?
Yeah, so I think without having a science background, I kind of came into this with this like stubborn resolution that I wanted to make this as real as possible. And so I think from the outset, I really wanted to find a way to somehow use real spirits as a part of the base for our products. And that was how I learned about the process called vacuum distillation, which is a lot more prevalent in the wine industry. I think people have probably seen these kind of non-alc, de-alc wines where, they actually make a wine and then through vacuum distillation, they remove the ethanol from it. And so, my curiosity was like, would that actually be able to apply to spirits? And the answer is yes. It's a bit more complicated. But, so we use that process as our starting point. And what we realized through that is, you can make incredible flavors in a lab today. The science is so much more sophisticated, but particularly for the whiskey, it's a really tough nut to crack. It is very, very difficult to make an artificial or natural flavor that tastes like what comes out of those barrels. And so, for us, it felt necessary if we were really trying to give our customers the best possible product.
And then, while you were going through all this, how much fun or maybe not fun was it as you were trying to figure out to get those flavors that you wanted? Because at the end of the day, you can create something that's non-alcoholic, but like you said, people still want to be able to taste things that they're used to tasting.
Totally. And frankly, like, I think part of the reason that we have the other products is because we wanted to offer additional options. But part of it was also because as we were moving along the process to create the whiskey product, we found that it wasn't quite as complicated to perform this process on the tequilas and the gins. And, so I think it was exciting, but it was frustrating. It was challenging. It was definitely more complicated. I don't know how I had an idea of how complicated it would be, but it took almost a year for us to figure out the science behind these products and hundreds of tests. Because, with vacuum distillation and even just like flavor curation, there are just so many different variables that you can tweak. And so, I actually started working on the process on my own. And when I kind of realized what my own limitations were, I started looking for other people to kind of pull into the conversation and have, met a lot of really great scientists and formulators along the way. But for many of them, this is a completely new type of project as well. It's a new category. I think a lot of people are excited for the challenge, but it's something that they've not necessarily gone after before. So.
Yeah, there's unfortunately not a lot of blueprints for what folks are doing.
And there's this part of me that loves that, it's like kind of like the wild, wild west. But then in terms of like figuring out timelines and budgets, it's sometimes pretty complicated because you sometimes frankly just don't know.
And that, but that is kind of the spirits category. Sometimes you just don't know, and time is never on your. You're just going with time, and when things finally do taste good, and how close do they resemble their alcoholic counterparts? Because I'm sure that's what a lot of people are always curious about.
Yeah, so I think they are, we've gotten feedback that they are the best in the category, and this is a category that is quickly expanding, and I'm sure the science will continue to improve with time, and there will be competitors that really, do present kind of, some competition for us. But I think, that being said, there are some differences. Like when you will, have a shot of whiskey, for example, it's hard to deny that burn that makes you kind of take pause for a moment. And, because we've removed the ethanol from our products, they just don't have that effect. And we've been able to, extract some different derivatives from peppers and stuff to create a little bit of a heat and a tingle, but we're also not wanting to overwhelm the drinker with that. And I'll say that, drinking neat, you can definitely tell the difference because they just don't have the alcohol. But when you are making cocktails, they're more or less interchangeable, whether it's a margarita or, an old fashioned, they stand on their own pretty well in that context. So.
Yeah, the whiskey is always the hardest, that burn that everyone's quote unquote loves.
And I think the thing with whiskey, it's interesting because we really have this philosophy of kind of like continuous improvement, and we're already working on ways to improve our products, even though we're happy with V1, but I think the thing with whiskey is, especially here in Kentucky, people want to drink it neat. And we don't run into that same challenge as much with the gin and tequila. People buy those, they expect to put them in cocktails, but I think for folks with our whiskey product, like their first inclination is to be like, can I throw an ice cube in it and sip it after dinner? And I don't think we're quite there yet, but it certainly is a place we'd like to eventually reach.
Becca, I appreciate you sharing the story of Naked Lady, and I can't wait to see what's next.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you having me. This was great. So thank you so much.
Check out Hops and Spirits on social media at Hops Spirits, all one word, on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also find Hops and Spirits on YouTube and at hopspirits.com.
Joining us here for our conversation, he's a man of many talents, and while the interview might have taken place slightly before his EP came out, that is now out for those that are listening to the podcast. His EP America dropped on January 20th. Welcome in, Colton James.
Hey, pleasure to be here. How you doing?
I'm good. I appreciate you hopping on, and I always like to ask this, my first question. I mean, this is called Bar Conversations. I'm drinking a little Rattle and Snap Tennessee whiskey that I had by my side. You got anything good tonight, or a good go-to drink for you?
I'm having like an orange crush. So
the hard stuff.
Squeeze orange, a little vodka, a little something. But that's one of my favorite drinks. One of my favorite places to eat is Waterman's down in Virginia Beach. My buddy Mike Standing owns that place. They have the best orange crushes, and one called Ruby Red Crush. But he even has something called a Crush Fest. He has so.
So they know how to do it right down there, is what you're telling me.
Oh yeah.
And you may have partaked in a few of those.
Probably a couple hundred. 1,000. I don't know how many.
I was gonna say, but when they're good, and you mentioned being down at the beach, and I've you can, if you're watching the video of the podcast, not listening to, you can see he's got his camo on. I gotta ask, if you're not on stage, where are we gonna find you? Is it out on the boat, or is it up in the deer stand?
Well, I think it's going to be it's a combination of all kinds of stuff. I love anything outdoors. Some of my greatest memories growing up was going fishing with my dad and my family. Inshore and offshore, the Outer Banks of North Carolina, and just some of the things I've seen on the ocean are amazing. And I love the woods and spending time, and written a lot of songs in a tree stand. Actually, just when you find yourself quiet and just thinking about things in life and writing down. But I do love the outdoors. You can definitely find me in a boat with a rod in my hand, working on tan. There's a new song. I don't know, just hanging out. But me and my family, we do a lot of stuff together in the outdoors, and we love it. Hunting, fishing, and just you can often find a really good bonfire at our farm going on. So it's a lot of people come over and they say, well, I know Colton's going to have a bonfire about 8 or 10 feet tall going, so let's head over there.
Hey, those are some of my favorite memories when I came home from college, and come home from break, and buddies are having a bonfire out on their farm and have a couple drinks and have a good time. I mean, I can't say anything bad about that.
No, hey, it's the only way to go, man. God's
I was
country.
gonna say there's definitely some songs that can come out of that too, or at least some good memories. And like I said, you're a busy man. I mean, whether it's you're on stage, you're performing, you've got business deals, you got a lot of projects going on, including Red Sunset, even with Rick Dawson. How do you find time for it all?
That's a really uh question. That's a lot. It's a good one too. First of all, I'll say anything you love is never really boring or hard work. I'm a, you know, I've always been a mover and shaker ever since I was, a kid and involved in different things. But that's life. There's so many great things that you can grasp hold of and take hold of, and if you're doing something you love, you know, it's it definitely makes the day go by quick when you got so many multi things going on. But I guess I was given the gift to do it, and you know, uh, God's behind me, and I believe that in my family, and if I believe that every day, I think I can accomplish anything. So that's why I do what I do.
Well, and I was gonna say you've got the Red Sunset with Rick. How did that come together? And can you talk a little bit about it?
Well, that I met Rick Dawson at a charity fundraiser for our Land for Heroes organization in Oklahoma City. He lives outside Oklahoma City in Edmond, Oklahoma, and long story short, and the short of it, we became really good friends on different multi levels, business wise, and talking about different things. But I remember at my house one day I got a text from him. It was a phrase that says, "I miss America I grew up in," or "I miss America." And I started thinking about what he had sent me, and I was like, I sat there and started writing some stuff on my phone, and he said, "Yeah, I miss America I grew up in, where a handshake was a handshake and a friend were a real friend." And I started writing some stuff down, and I texted to him. He's like, "Man," he said, "that sounds like the beginning of a song." And I said, "Hey, Rick, you ever wrote a song?" And he goes, "No, man." He goes, "I'm not no writer, but I love, he loves words and he loves music." And I said, "Well, let's have some fun. I'll come out and write one with you." And and long story short, we got to his house, Oklahoma. The next day, we got up and went out on the courtyard of his house there in Oklahoma, Edmond, Oklahoma, and we were just thinking about um, all the things we love about this country, and things we grew up in, and things that mean a lot to Americans. And one of the things I remember is I just closed my eyes, and I could just remember going to school, and you know pledge allegiance to the flag, and that silent prayer and different things that just kept going through my head, and the words just came out. Both of us just started writing things we believe in, and the heartbeat of our country, is the American worker, and the families.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just it was a great song that came out, and so we created this song and recorded it, and somehow we came up with the idea of starting RedSunset Entertainment. And there's a lot behind it, more than that, but I say it happened for a reason. And people meet in life crossroads, and you don't know why, but you find out later in life why. And he's a fine person, great business partner. I'm excited about this label, what we're gonna do with it, and the uh, the amount of uh, the amount of time and effort that's gone into it so far, and the great people that are working already on our team is amazing to see. What we put together so far. We did sign our first artist. Her name is Jana Marie. She's 23 years old, and I'm telling you, man, amazing talent. I cannot wait for the public to hear. And her mom and dad are awesome folks. Her dad's a 9/11 firefighter survivor and captain of the fire department, and me and him have talked and had some great conversation. But it's going to be interesting to see where her career moves to, and it's just so many things happened in 2022, and so fast. It was like, it's only you can only think it's just meant to be. So, but we're out here, gonna give it all we got. We're gonna offer our artist, a little bit more piece of the pie, I guess, if you will, and we're gonna kind of structure things a little bit differently than most of your big corporate labels, but we definitely have got a great team of people working with us so far. But that's just one of the things on the plate. But it's that's enough already.
I was gonna say it keeps you busy, and I know something that's really near and dear to you is the you kind of touched on it, the charity that you kind of met Rick at, and you're working on the Land for Heroes Lodge. That's one of the important things you're trying to get going out there in Virginia. Can you talk about why that's so important and what it does?
Well, I'll tell you, it all started with a song years and years ago, a song I co-wrote with my friend John Manakes in Florida, and a song called Brave Men was a tribute to all of our military and all of our armed forces. Long story how that came about, but we put it together, great song, and I started performing for, the first time I sang it was in front of a large crowd with Jason Aldean at the Little Creek Amphibious Base, and there in Virginia Beach, and Norfolk, Virginia. But it was really heartfelt for me to see the people in the crowd and the response, and it was a standing ovation, flags waving. I don't know, it was 14 to 16,000 people there that night, and things move you in life, and that song and seeing the reaction of people just opened me up to a whole different way of looking at things, I guess you could say, about our freedoms and all we do have in this country. And I started working with a lot of organizations because of the song, and many military organizations and charities across the country. It just opened my eyes of what I could do, and fast forward a whole lot of other things. We came up with the idea to start Land for Heroes, and it's a place for veterans and first responders to come, get away, ease their minds, spend some quality time with people who are like-minded. Great food, gonna have a music aspect to it, but it's gonna be a 15,000 square foot log lodge designed by Honest Abe Log Homes right there in Moss, Tennessee. And it's going to be one of a kind facility for people to come to, and just share some good times together. Hunting, fishing, campfires, good food, good music, beautiful place. It's it's humbling to be a part of all this and see it come together. And hopefully we hope to start construction just a little bit later on this year. We're getting the land prepped right now. We got to have some clearing work done, and we're settling in on the final details of the prints and the plans. But it's just amazing the people that are coming together and hearing about this project. And I had a program director not too long ago ask me, "So, man, what drives you to do all this stuff?" And I said, I don't think Noah argued with God when he was told to build an ark. I just feel that way because it's just a calling in my life to do something. I love the outdoors. I love music. I love, cooking and spending time with people. And, I kind of grew up the whole way with my family. And I was like, you know what? We're going to start our own facility. Only one like it in the country. And, we're gonna change some lives and make some memories. And our goal, after we get this first one built, is to build 3 more in key locations across the country, and I believe we're gonna do it. I really do. I think it's a mission that I can see coming to life, and I think when you start seeing things really happen, and you're holding it and touching it, and you can just the phone calls and different things are happening. You get ready to start planning, it's like this is really happening.
It's not a dream anymore.
we're working with some great companies. We're getting ready to start some huge Roundup company, like a Roundup program if you want to donate your change and stuff like that with some really good companies. And we're excited about that for this year. And going to be a part of a lot of events across the country this year with different organizations, and we're excited about that. But it's 2023 starting off um, fully stocked for sure.
I was gonna say, I mean, whether it's the Land for Heroes Lodge, you talked about your song "Brave Men." You know, what is it about veterans, first responders that hold kind of a special place in your life?
Well, all my family was military. Both my grandfathers. Um, One of my grandfathers was in the Army and the Navy, and so all my dad's brothers, except for one, was in the military. My brother was in the Army, and I guess growing up in an area of Southeast Virginia where there is a large military presence, a lot of you got Norfolk Naval Base here. You have, you know, you have the Air Force Base. You've got Coast Guard bases here. You've got this, Army facilities. You know, it's just you got Langley Air Force Base, and it's just a lot of presence here. And so it was growing up around here. There was a lot of patriotism. Uh, Military families, and then growing up with a family just that loved, respected, and honored our red, white, and blue. And they were, a lot of them have passed away now in my family, but I can tell you one thing: they love this country, and I learned a lot of that from them. So
Now I gotta ask, you
to
also have a love
respect
for
all we
music.
have.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense, and I also know you got a love for music too, because obviously that's kind of part of the lodge, and it's an integral part of your life. Where did that
Oh
love
yeah.
come from?
Oh, music love.
Mm-hmm.
That's easy. I mean, I can describe that one. It's both my grandmothers played piano and organ. Um, one of my grannies on my dad's side was more the honky tonkin' granny on Sundays. Might have had a little drink and having fun with the family and cooking fried chicken, drinking cold beer. That might have been a lot of fun on Sundays. Every Sunday was a get together with my granny and her six sons, her six boys. And can you imagine that family? I mean, it was a lot of us. They would get together, but you know, she'd get on there a piano and everybody start singing and have a good time. And I remember my Uncle Jesse, he'd get out the guitar with a big giant cowboy hat and sit there in a rocking chair. I don't even know if he knew what he was playing, but anyway, that was a whole lot of fun. But my granny on my mama's side was an amazing piano or organ player, but she was also a very well known watercolor artist in our area and did some amazing painting with some of the best around, and a lot of seascapes and lighthouses and beaches and trees and seascapes and things like that, and mountain ranges. And there was a lot of paintings like from this area and the Outer Banks of North Carolina. And we would sit there on our organ and sing different songs. And I remember her working with me on different keys and singing at different levels. And it's I think it's really something you're born with. It's you gotta there's a spark. Everybody loves music, but there's a spark in a lot of people that just want to play, or they either hear notes differently or they pick it up quicker. And there was just things that I picked up on pretty quick. And as the years went going by, I worked in church, and my mother sang in church a lot, and I worked with a lady for about 9 years who went on to work with productions for Walt Disney. So I was shown a lot of things early on about growing up with these families and different styles of music. But one thing I remember is those truck rides in that '69 four-wheel drive to the fishing hole 4x4, pulling a 16, 17-foot wooden Carolina boat. It was all custom built with mahogany, and going fishing with my dad and listening to some of the songs that he listened to, all the old country, and George Jones, Don Williams, Tom T. Hall, Merle Haggard, all kinds of stuff. Waylon, Tammy Wynette, Dolly Parton, on and on. I was just a lot of those songs for me, and even my dad would say, he's like, at a young age, you were just singing with a lot of these songs. And I think that for me, the lyrics, were so relatable because I was around that lifestyle of family and have seen so much of this stuff and, and lived it. So that was, for me, cool memories too, going fishing and stuff. But, when I started playing in honky tonk bars, 17, 18 years old and getting out there, it's a whole different, element there, whole different level. Yeah, but I was singing in the bar and this guy came in one night and he said, "Hey man," he goes, "my name is Wayne Daniels." He said, "I'm from North Carolina." He said, "I've been around country music. I've been playing drums for 20 years, playing country music and southern rock and different things." He said, "But I really think you got a great talent." And he said, "If you'll let me, I'd like to help you put your first band together." And that's what we did, and we called it the Backroads Band. And we practiced every night, getting ready for shows, sometimes till 3 in the morning. And good memories, good times. And then it came time for our first gig, and we had a packed house, and because a lot of people knew we were practicing, they'd come over, listen to rehearsals and things. And so we're in there playing, and all of a sudden a fight breaks out with a bunch of bachelorette girls. I don't know, must have been 10 or 11 of them was fighting with some other girls, I don't know, but it ended up on stage and knocked my mic stand over and this one of the cymbals on the drums. And I remember we just picking the cymbals back up, kept playing. I pulled my mic stand back up, never missed a beat. And that's I guess
if you can play in that, you can play anywhere, right? If you live
through that for your first gig, you're gonna survive anything. Oh man, but that was something else. But all the years of playing the honky tonk bars and clubs, and and then some people that seen me and wanted to help get me to the next level in Nashville. I started working with some folks with Travis Tritt and a lot of his band members and different things, and started more into the writing and just kind of finding myself as an artist. But I wouldn't trade none of it for anything, and so here we are today doing what we're doing.
I was gonna say,
and that's making music and loving it.
I was gonna say having a lot of fun and doing it pretty well. I mean, now I got to ask about that honky tonk granny. You said she's from West Virginia, like southern West Virginia, the mountains. Where are we talking about in West Virginia? I've heard some stories.
My dad was born on a dirt floor cabin right out south of Charleston in Coal Town, Marmet, West Virginia, back up in the hills on a coal camp. So you know where Marmet, West Virginia is?
I do, because I before I moved to Kentucky, I was living in Beckley, West Virginia, and my wife, I can't remember exactly where, but her dad worked for some of the oil and gas companies up there, and their offices were not. They were based in Charleston, but her office that she got to work at for one summer was not not there. It was out in the country, and I have some family that still lives in the Summersville and Elkins areas up in the mountains.
Interesting. That was here's a funny story. A couple years back, we were riding through there, me and my wife, and had a big old jacked up Chevrolet truck, tribute to the Armed Forces wrap all over it. So I said, we'll roll into that little town and go up the mountain a little bit, find that little gas station my dad was telling me about. And I wanted to bring him back some river rocks from the creek they used to play in when they were kids, him and his 5 brothers. And so me and my wife pulled up in the gas station, this old store, and it was cold outside, and the smoke was coming out the chimney. I rolled up inside there, and I said, "How y'all doing?" They said they were in their rocking chairs. They said, They said, we're doing pretty good. What can we help you? They were like, who in the heck is this dude? I said, I'm trying to find my great great grandfather's grave. And they said, oh yeah. And they said, what's his name? I said his name was Hub Stewart. And he could have heard a pin drop. they were they were like, Hub Stewart. So evidently he did a lot of shine running back in the day with the Hatfields and McCoys and some other stuff. I don't know what. They were like, oh, he goes, man. They started talking. And he said, son, he goes, they moved all them graves down there by the river. Yeah, they had to move the graves like from some road or something like that. But anyway, I talked to them for a while. It was pretty cool. But he said, yeah, that creek your daddy, creek, that's what he said. That creek your daddy would have played in was right down here. You go down and turn, and just like my dad described it, the trees are kind of growing over the old big creek, and it's beautiful coming down off the mountain. So me and my wife put it in four-wheel drive a little bit, went up, found a place, and pulled off and hung out there for a minute, took some video and pictures, and I brought him back some rocks. So from the creek you played in when he was a kid. That was it. That was a good time though.
I was gonna say that.
That's one of my favorite West Virginia stories.
I was gonna say, and I'm sure the directions were at the pile of wood, turn left, go down the dirt road. If you go,
yeah, there's an oak tree with a hollow in it. There's a fence post out there. You'll see a donkey. He's half white and half brown. And yep. I don't know. I mean, they come up with a turn left at the old yellow marker and go up you'll see a ribbon on a tree. Yeah, that's it. I live in the country, so most people can never find our house, so we're out in the sticks.
Well, but, I was gonna say
we like it like that.
I was gonna say you grew up in a small town in Virginia. I mean, what impact did that have on it? Because obviously you touched on it. I mean, you're driving around in the truck and listening to some of the classics and the legends. I mean, I'm guessing that had a huge impact on you.
Oh yeah, I mean, anybody that grows up in a small town, or you know a lot of folks in the area, but I mean, Tidewater, Virginia, where I grew up, is pretty large, and but I guess the impact the music had on me, like you were asking, is just the lyrics, and I'm a lyric guy. It's for me when I write, it's like my grandmother said. She told me one day. She said a painter paints with a paintbrush and a songwriter paints with a pen. And she said, I'll see you paint with a pen one day, and I know you love music, and here I am doing it. So it's a gift that I thank God for every day. It's definitely where I find my peace, is writing music, writing lyrics and songs that mean something to people, and make their day go by, and change their life, or open their eyes to something. And we got some really cool songs that are going to do that on this new EP, and I can't wait for everybody to hear it for sure.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, on the new EP, you wrote 6 of the 7 songs. Now I'm curious about the 7th one, and it's one I really enjoy, 47 Acre Farm. What drew you to that one, since that was the only one that you weren't a co-writer or a writer on?
Well, I tell you, I mean, the song was brought to me by a good friend of mine, and he said, "Hey, man, I know you write a lot of your stuff, and and it's I know you write with a lot of different writers." He said, "Man, I really think the song's in your wheelhouse, and I think you can nail it." And I heard it and kind of just really love the lyrics and its story and the energy in it. And I kind of grew up in a lot of the things that happen in that song. I kind of grew up like that, and so for me it just resonated with everything that I had lived through, growing up. But 47 Acre Farm, I can't wait for people to hear that song. It's the writers that wrote it. They've written a lot of great songs, but for me, I was glad this one crossed my path.
I was gonna say it sounds like it's definitely authentic to you, and it's one of my favorite on the EP that I got to listen to. And like you said, your writing process seems to be a lot of experiences, things like that. I mean, is that kind of where you pull from? Is those experiences, or maybe you've got a muse, so to speak, like a ring on her finger, writing about some personal topics?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I try to describe things that I've lived through, or who I am, or how I feel, or what I believe in the songs I write. And it's talking about ring on her finger is I wrote it with the late great Kim Tribble. It's just a heck of a songwriter. Has written a lot of hits, and he was a great friend, mentor to me, and produced a lot of songs on me, and spent a lot of time. And we had a it was more than just a writing relationship. I mean, we hunted together, fished together, and hung out, and became really good friends. And I mean, me and him were like two peas in a pod, I guess you could say. My wife said the same thing. She goes, "Y'all are just alike, and high energy, and like to do a million things, and just go after this, and smile on our face." So me and him we were definitely a, a we were definitely a good time, both of us together. So, but it was the last song I wrote with him. It was the last time I seen him alive, and it was the last songwriting memory I had with him. So it was a great. It's a great song. What a great song a legacy, to leave behind for his family and my family one day. And I can honestly say that I married my best friend. And fellas, when you meet that special someone, you got to put a ring on her finger. But I
Absolutely.
can't wait. People check it out. The video is already out. You can go to Colton James USA and see the video for Ring on Her Finger. And a good friend of mine, Grant Hart, with Grant Hart Productions. He's a world-class wedding videographer, and I started thinking about the song. I was like, man, I really want to do something special with my wife Casey, and so we got together with Grant, and I had kind of a vision of what I wanted to do, and go down to the beach. We had to go to that little island by boat. By the way, you can't drive to where we filmed this video, so everything was like way far away from shore, out in this little private like island area with the sun going down. And some of our great memories me and her have had together with our family. And so we're out there dancing with the sunset behind us, and barefooted, and her in a pretty white dress, and I just had a pair of old jeans rolled up with a cowboy hat on, and t-shirt, and we kind of just wanted it to be real and show who we are and show our love. And man, I tell you what, we've had a great response on this song, and excited to see where it's going to take us, for sure.
I was gonna say,
especially for wedding season coming up.
Yeah, I was gonna say it is perfect if you guys are looking for a song. It's a good one. I was gonna say, is it weird though when you go to your wife and go like, "Hey, I kind of wrote a song about you." Are you ever nervous to play it for her, just in case she's like, "Oh, I hate that"?
Well, actually, when me and Kim wrote the song, he was going through a lot of sickness, and we, the day we were writing it, we only got like halfway through, and then I said, "Hey, buddy, we didn't finish our song," and he said, "Man, I'm gonna head on home and not feeling too well." And he said, "But I believe in you." He goes, "You finish it." He goes, "We've worked on a lot of stuff together." And I remember sitting there at the house a couple times, and she'd be doing something in the house, and I'd write a little bit more, and she knew I was writing the song, and it meant a lot to me too. And finally, I went in there one day, and she was sitting there watching a TV show in the other room or something. I said, I got it," and sat down. I sat down and I played it for her, and she's like, "It's great." So, you know, I tell you, my wife is sometimes my worst critic. And she'll tell me, "No, I love her. She's great in the studio." Kim Tribble and all the producers I even work with have said, "Man, your wife Casey's got a great ear, and she knows you, man. She's gonna call you out if you're in the studio and you're not killing it, or you're not hitting it, or you're, the feeling's not there. And trust me, every artist that's recorded, you're gonna have days where you go in and you go like, I got to come back in a couple hours, or we just move it to tomorrow. You know, I mean, there's always going to be those times, or you're too tired. I mean, and she's called it out. She's like, hey, she would tell Kim, he's done. You know, or I think you can do this with this note here, and she's got a really good ear. So, um, when Casey said, well, I love it. I think it's good. I think it's job well done. I was like, oh, it's complete then. So,
You got the stamp
we
of
had
approval
fun in the
and you're
studio.
good.
Yeah. I tell you, after you've been together with somebody, for so long, and I met her when she was 17, and you grow together. She was with me the whole process of, from every level of music that I've been through. So, what a journey, and to have this song to leave behind this video too one day to our grandkids, and so it's I think about stuff like that. So
I was gonna say it's truly everlasting, and it's cool to see. And you talked about working with the late Kim Tribble on the record, and you also got to work with Jimmy Nichols. What does this record kind of mean to you, getting to work with them, and especially the last things that Kim worked on?
Well, for me, from the songs to the new songs to Kim Tribble and Jimmy Nichols had always worked with even some other songs I'd recorded and on previous projects and things like that. And Jimmy kind of just picked up and spent a lot of time with me when Kim passed away and helped me finish this project. And it's just like I said, I mean, there's so many things that have humbled me last year, from a new partnership to new songs to new people in my life, mix engineers, studio musicians, the guy that mixed this EP, Steve Marcantonio, just a legend in mixing records and done a lot for Brooks and Dunn and on and on and on. So many records you can look him up, but there's people I learned. I like to think that I learn from every day on things. I mean, every day is a learning process, and I try to take in what they have to give to me and help that soak it in, let it take me to the next level. But Jimmy is great, and a lot of fun putting these songs together. It's amazing if you haven't ever been in a recording studio and seen a track or a record being done, or the tracking session, you got to check it out for sure.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, the album, when this episode drops, it'll have come out. What do you tell folks that are like, well, I've enjoyed a few things, because there are some damn good songs on the record.
Well, I like to people that go get this record and take time to listen to it. First of all, thank you, and the songs came from the heart, and they're a story and lyrics of a lot of things in my life that I've lived, how I feel about this country, how I feel about country music fans, and just my family, and respect for our flag, and the hard-working man of this country, the teacher, the farmer, the everyday worker. There's so many things about this record that is for you guys, and I just want you to know that. And I mean, I got a song on there called Richest Man Alive. And I truly am the richest man alive. I got a great family. And I can't wait for y'all to hear that song. I think that's my favorite song on the record. Maybe it's just because it's so personal. But I'm excited to get the feedback from what folks say. So
well, it's very relatable. I feel like, because like you said, you're telling stories, and you're able to share parts of yourself that I think a lot of people can see themselves in those same thoughts and same things, and that's why I think it's a really good album, and folks really need to check it out. And obviously you've got the album out. What else can folks expect from you the rest of 2023?
We're going to be out on the road working real hard, aligning ourselves with a lot of patriotic shows and military events, for sure. We're excited to get our new artist out. We're going to be working on a TV show called Real Water Cowboy, bringing things that I love from the ocean and all my past fishing experiences with other music artists and cuisine. We're going to be filming that and working on each process of each little project. We got all our teams working on different projects, and somehow I'm just riding the ride with all of it, man, and just out to make a difference. But I tell everybody this: I love life. I thank God every day for the gifts that I have, and the family and friends and believers and people that work so hard. I mean, look at people like yourself take time to interview us and get our music out and help us grow our fans. And hey man, I thank you, and I thank everybody that does that. It's the music world and business and background and the movers and shakers. People wouldn't believe what goes on every day in the music business. It's a social media, everything. It's giant. And I'm glad to be part of it. You only get one ride on this ball of dirt. You got to make it your ride.
Well, you're making it a hell of a ride, and one that's fun and exciting. And Colton, I appreciate the time, appreciate the drink, and like I said, folks, you got to check out his EP America. Colton, I appreciate it, man.
I appreciate you and everybody. It comes out this Friday, so check it out on all your music platforms: Spotify, Amazon, Apple. These are all kinds of YouTube everywhere. So I think you can find it just about everywhere nowadays. So use Google search it to come up. But we appreciate your time, and thank you to all the folks out there that go take a listen to this record. I think it's going to put a smile on your face.
Find more from Hops and Spirits at hopspirits.com.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.